All right, live from the Survival Pod. This is Freedom Phil. What are we talking about? It's amazing the way people and feral pigs have a similarity in the sense that once you get broken out of the whole office working, having to tow the weight of society, much like that pig that broke out of the truck some way, somehow, it doesn't take that long before that animal is totally surviving the way that it has to be, the way kind of it wants to be. Where am I going with this? Free to feel, like, subscribe, and always turn up the video speed. And why do I say that? Because you can watch videos faster, 1.75 if I choose to upload it. You should be watching it at. And as I always say, this is not a channel for children. If you're just farming out your parenting duties to a screen, you're a shitty parent. Not my gig if they hear something on here. And moreover and all, as all of you know that have been watching the channel, I got a handful of actual humans that leave decent comments, but most people that watch this channel are robots or retards, and I will freely call you out every fucking time. All right, let's get back to the topic. I was just thinking about it. Like, I saw this meme of this showing how it doesn't even take like 6 months. It's like 6 months to a year, and pigs will just like change. Like, they'll mutate to be like feral hogs, which honestly is bad enough. But when they breed with wild pigs, they get genes plus weight, speed, muscle, and the ability to like super breed. Because that's one thing a lot of people don't understand with the pigs is that they're bred to have huge litters. So what ends up happening is it's like, it's like the Rob Zombie super beast, but it's, hell yeah, it's a super pig. But you look at that just transformation from farm animal, not totally domestic, but certainly not wild, to just like, fuck it, we gotta live. And I've seen this happen not only with myself, but like with other working class people. You see guys that like were office or military or whatever, and they get out of having to put up with the nonsense of society. Like they're not working, whatever. They're out of the job. They quit or whatever happens. They retire. And then you start seeing like a full ass beard and they're out there in the woods doing their thing. Like you see a guy that's like a normal straight laced suit guy. He's got a beard and he's the brawny paper towel guy splitting fucking wood out in the middle of nowhere. And he's just got his cabin and he's good. And you also see this in different ways everywhere in the world. Like when society doesn't force people to be like whatever form of conforming you have to be. Like, for instance, there's a lot of years I didn't smoke pot. And it was only because of business reasons. Like the 5 years during the first stage of progress, like before I found the decent job, I was always kind of preparing for that success. So I was like, look, man, everybody I know that smokes pot can't find a decent job. So that's like job repellent. If the opportunity shows up, it's not a matter of luck. But like, if you fuck up whatever thing you got going on by not being able to pass a piss test. So I was like, there was a year there before I found a decent job where I just didn't smoke pot. And then I found a decent job, and 4 years later, I had my house paid off. And then there's the 2 years, the Obama, year and a half of Obama checks. Like, you rag on the Democrats a lot. You took that money? Goddamn right I did. I paid into that system. I was paying like, over the course of that 4 years of moving trash, I literally paid more in taxes than the signing price of my house. And that kind of nuts. No wife, no kids. But that's how it rolls, man. So I didn't feel fuck all bad about getting money back. I only smoked pot, though, a handful of times in that time. Like, so I couldn't go full feral. I could not be like I am now. And even now, I'm not as I would have been a year or so ago. Like, what do you mean full feral? But yeah, after I had that 2 years, I got my Class A CDL. And next thing you know, I'm out there. And I ended up getting that job driving truck. And so for 9 years, so it's about 10 years I didn't smoke pot. And that was one of the things I was looking forward to when I quit my job. So come April, it'll be 4 years since I've drove truck. 4 years since I've worked a normal job. And we did a remodel on my house during the summers, off and on, a few summers. It took a while. And then basically during the winters, I'd either be in the wasteland or somewhere else. And last winter, I spent it up there up north, and I'm never fucking doing that again. You can keep that frozen north. Unless you're paying me to drive through there, I ain't dealing with that shit. I like this nice. It might be cold here at night. But it's pretty damn nice during the day. And cold at night means I put the water jugs out and then put them back in the cooler, and I got free refrigeration. I got 2 coolers of free refrigeration out there. This is the best, If it was any colder, I'd say build an underground house or, and all that shit. One of those dugout houses. Anyways, I just kind of look at the way we're forced to be. And like even now, I'm not smoking pot because I want to be ready for when I go back to driving, go back to the business. You know, and let's just say they do a hair test. They won't. They'll do a piss test. But like, let's say they do a hair test. Fuck, don't matter. I ain't smoked since last April. But I think to myself that I'm not quite as feral as I would like to be. I'm not. I mean, given the choice, I instead of just drinking vodka when I choose to drink, and I don't even drink all the time. It's just sometimes I drink, sometimes I don't. I would like smoke like some pot and do the balloon token. So that way I get, you know, 3 to 4 or 5 times, depending on the potency that you're getting off your weed. So you got to use like anywhere from 3 to 5 times as much weed to get the same effect, you know? And so it's one of those gigs where little like 2 good balloon tokes, maybe 3, and a mixed drink. And by the way, I'm not one of those people. If I drink less, there's got to be a certain level of drunkenness. Otherwise, why the fuck am I doing this? Like, why am I polluting my body if I'm not having real fun? It's a lot of people, you know, all that shit. Yeah, whatever. I don't know what you're talking about. You're straight, weird, great straight. I don't give a shit. But like, my gig is that, yeah, man, there's something kind of beautiful when you just don't have to go back to work. You don't have to, and it's not about like fuck the job. It's like fuck somebody controlling you. And it's, you know, this is the thing about it. There's a lot of jobs in America that frankly, there is absolutely no reason why you should basically have to fucking do like it's your weekend. Let's say you got Friday, get off on Friday, and you got Saturday and Sunday. So let's say you have a big roast session Friday night at your house, have a barbecue or something. And then on Saturday morning, when you're just doing little basic yard work, nothing too heavy machinery, you have a wake and bake. Why the fuck can't I do that? Well, you see, there's residual effects of weed. You know how many people I've met over the years that had a residual effects of Jack Daniels or beer from partying on Sunday because of the football games? Like, don't bullshit me on that. Now, one's just approved and one's not. And I really wish this country would get past all that shit. But, you know, when I go back to working, that's just the way the game works, you know? And it's like, I just think it's funny because when I'm out here and I don't have to, and there's no concept that I'll ever, yeah, I'm going to go back to work and just put a little more aside. So, you know, retirement will be way fucking easier. But once I've got that money pretty much working and aside, making me even more money than I'm making now, yeah, I'm just going to be fucking roasting them up whenever the fuck I want. Because, shit. The idea that some other man can tell me what to do with my fucking day when I'm not hurting anybody, screw that shit. And that's it. That's the way I kind of look at those feral pigs, man. Just how many months or a year ago that animal was pink and pig, what we think of as a pig. And you give it a year in the wild, and it's just like a man growing the beard and out there just stomping around the bush. You know, maybe smokes a bowl, has a couple shots, and he's taking himself a spirit walk. You know? It's just, to me, that's just funny. How quickly we can go back to the natural way we wish to be. And look, hey, some of you might be straight edgers, and that's your choice. But I just don't. I've been straight edge. I was straight edge for years because the job required it. And I thought I was fucking boring. It's not that it was horrible. It's just, you know, I could go out and get drunk. But it's just not as exciting. You know, some people can just get high on life and all that nonsense. I've never really been, I can feel how my body's healthier when I'm not drinking. And by the way, funny thing about it, I can smoke pot and have my body feeling a lot better if I'm not drinking. I quit drinking beer because I'm just like, vodka doesn't cause me as many problems. Isn't that fucking funny? Isn't that hilarious? Like, so you don't drink beer? Yeah, because beer's just like asking for the beer shits. And like, maybe I'll have like a really good stout. Like a really good stout, man. And by the way, I don't usually pay attention to the comments, but like, skip your Jesus, you know, go thump somewhere else, dipshit. I'm just being real. I fucking do not care about your fake ass gods. Like, I'm not one of these believers in that nonsense. There's another feral mindset. Like, all the people that have to fucking toe the line with religious people because they're friends or family or all that, and they get away from that. And let me tell you a story about that. Just kind of close it out. Up north, if you go up towards Yellowstone, north of the greater Moaverse, what is the Moaverse? How many of you lived in areas with tons of fucking Mormons? The Mormon universe. See, some of the Moes up in Idaho, when I was up there a while back ago, they're actually worse than the Moes in Salt Lake. But if you get onto rural Mo country, you got all these Latter-day Saints people. They ain't pligs. They're not the plig list. But like, these people are like, straight edge, don't drink, don't do this. Well, if you go up, there's this place called Island Park, Idaho. And that's where all the debauchery would happen. They built their cabins so they could not only go up there and hunt and drink and fish and bang their girlfriends, you know, their mistresses, do the coke. By the way, some of the interior states, it was easier back in the day to get cocaine than it was weed because, frankly, if you were going to get busted for one or the other, one paid vastly more. So you got a bunch of like potato farmer cocaine cowboys running around banging their fucking mistresses. You know, like these people are going feral as hell, you know? And it's just funny to me because when I see all these people talking about the Lord Jesus, blah, 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 how many people, when they can get away with doing some shit, when there isn't that kind of authoritarian boss, like just like your employer structure, they're doing it. How many people in America, they're still looking for a way because they want to feel something other than day-to-day shit. How many people in America are just finding some new way to get high? And all because, like, for instance, when it comes to pot, there's a lot of states and a lot of governments that still have a, you know, like a thing up their ass, a thorn up their ass about weed. And how much of that's just people that are bought and paid? You know, like big tobacco and fucking big alcohol not wanting anybody to cut into their shit. Like I've said many times before, I saw many people that, like, okay, let's just say you smoked on Friday and had a barbecue, and then you did a little roast session in the morning on Saturday and just kind of, you know, trimmed your hedges, you know, did a, like, had a bonsai garden, whatever, pulled some weeds. Then Sunday you don't do anything. You're fine on Monday. I saw tons of people that would be partying it up watching football, hungover as fuck on Monday. I saw people that would drink every day of the week. And perfectly fine, because that is the already legal sanction. It's like the laws, there's a lot of laws out there, if I'm being honest about it, that aren't designed to protect you. They're designed to protect business interests. Just like, you know, the people that are most in favor of new regulations? Big business. Because they're already established. They can afford to pay for this shit. You starting out person, you're basically going to have to suffer under the weight of this shit. You know, and you run into these people, you know, you run into these fucking people that like try to start a business, try to do anything. They're not going to make it because they don't got the money to put the permits and all that crap. And that's the same thing with the drug laws. They don't like the idea that you could smoke some weed or do a little mushrooms. They don't like the idea that you could grow your own medicine. They want you to more and more dependent off their systems. And that's one thing about when you're a working man. You can't, there's just things you just don't do because you got to play the game the way the game is played. And I understand that. I abide by that. But once you get out away from all this fucking nonsense of like, yes, sir, do this, blah, blah, blah. And part of, when you want to know one of the greatest freedoms, even when you are working, you have enough money in the bank and you're debt free. To where basically if the boss starts giving you some shit, he's about to do that big thing, wagging his finger, and you're like, dude, I mean, I hear you, man. I screwed up. And if I was you, I would fire me. I used to love saying that to every fucking OTR boss I had. And they're like, whoa, 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 we're not talking, you're talking about, like, I mean, I get it. I mean, I can find another job tomorrow. I mean, but if I understand why you're pissed, but if you want to fire me, I'm totally cool with it. And they would shut up really quick about it. They were like, oh, no, 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 no. Because they get off on fucking waving their big fat fucking finger at you. Because that's part of the power trip. That's part of the reason you build a business, so you can lord over some motherfuckers. At least that's what I think a lot of boomers think. The day you don't have to live under someone else's thumb, and the more debt-free you are, and the more extra resources and the resources that are making you money, it's the better off you are. The day you can just go full feral. You know, just like that wild pig that the truck tipped over, and they're running, and they're out there in the wild. They're like, fuck it. And a year or two later, you see one of those, what used to be a farm pig. And them farm pigs look fucking like wild boars. Shit, they get breeding with wild boars. And then straight up, man, it's like super beast pig. But yeah, anyways, I'll actually do a little reading of the comments. And let's see, okay, yeah. Yeah, I know I got to cool down. No, he didn't. Okay, I'll just address this real quick. No, Jesus didn't die for me. If he did die, he died because he got put up on a stick. I don't believe in original sin. I don't believe in any of that shit. I don't believe in hell. And I think a lot of people waste their lives under someone else's thumb, believing it was some wacky ass shit. I believe you haven't even read your whole Bible, your whole ass Bible. You haven't sat back and read some of the parts where, you know, there's tricky hooker sex for goats, or sat down and thought about, hey, so Samson just knocked over 2 pillars, 2 towers, ironically, and that killed, what, how many thousands of people? Come on, dude. Like, you Jesus thumpers, just like your Quran thumpers or your whatever thumpers. Seriously, man. You ain't gonna convince me. That shit's ridiculous shit. I would have to have a fucking lobotomy, like a partial lobotomy. I'd have to be partially retarded and zombified to be like, whoa, God. I was raised that way. And I know how fake as hell that religion is. And it's just like somebody with their new age Eastern faith. Yeah, man, spirits and crystals, you know, Hinduism. And like, I like Buddhism to a certain degree, but not because it's a religion, but because it just seems like a prescription for life, a way of life. Christianity is some wacky shit, just like everything else Abrahamic. If you're going to ask me what God I might get behind, Zeus, baby. Zeus. Because that guy was all about fucking everything that walked. Zeus was the Chad god. He kicked his father's ass, who kicked his father's ass. And if I remember right, Ares eventually kicked Zeus's ass. So my point is like, give me a god I can at least respect. Not some pussyfooting god who was like, just hides up in the clouds, you know, has like basically SA some chick, runs off, and then basically lets his kid get put on a stick. You know, that don't sound like a god, respectable god. You want me to believe in some fucking fantastic fantasy bullshit? At least make sure that it's respectable to actual men. Yeah, fuck gods. So, hey, for once I actually read one of your fucking comments, you fucking jackasses. Let's say some country. Yeah, I agree. Illegal disasters. Yeah, Afghanistan is a good example of that. Yeah, you fuck all the poppies and shit. You know, I'm kind of 50-50 about Odin. I gotta be real about this. I think Thor was kind of a stupid douche. You know, like, I think, but Zeus was the shit, you know? And I have a lot of respect for the the Norse pantheon as well. And I actually have some interest in the pantheon over there in like Hindus and all that other shit. But there are so many goddamn fake ass religions around. Okay, can we just read those books for entertainment value and nothing else? Can we read it for historic information? Like, hey, this is what people believed back in the day, and just get past this idea that there's some invisible man in the fucking sky, because that's holding all you back. You know? Yeah, Loki's kind of cool too. But like, I've already read enough of your comments. I'm gonna like boogie out. Freedom Phil. Remember, if you're not a robot or a retard, maybe you're an actual person, but if you are one of those two things, fuck, I'm going to call you out on it. All right. Take it easy. Peace.